Today, I'm going to be ranking every single game in the Pokemon main series, and a few spin-offs, except based on how good they are as games to RNG manipulate in. But what makes a game good to RNG manip in? Well, my criteria is based on 3 things: consistency, variety, and targets. Consistency is simple. RNG is meant to take the luck out of the equation. If your RNG manips involve luck, then you're going to get penalized. Variety is what type of manips can you do? Are you limited only to grass encounters? Can you RNG every Pokemon? Can you RNG things that are not Pokemon? The more you have available to you, the better you're going to do. And 3 is targets, which might make you think, oh, that's the same as variety, no? Well, it depends. For example, you can RNG many Pokemon in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but literally all of them are available in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where they are twice as easy to RNG manip. So do you have any meaningful targets that are exclusive to your game? If not, then you're going to get penalized. And I'm also going to try my best to ignore how much I like the game personally as a single-player adventure or as like a multiplayer metagame, right? I love Gen 5 single-player, but I don't like its OU format. Should it get pushed up or pushed down because of that? I don't think so. With that, let's see what we're working with. By the way, this video is sponsored by me. In case you didn't know, my friend Papa Hefe and I launched a brand new battling channel together. We're going to be doing live showdown battles in old gens. Maybe he'll be really stupid and toxic. We're going to be doing Wi-Fi battles with post-coms in old gens and maybe some modern stuff. And we're going to be doing IRL Ranbats together. If any of that sounds appealing to you, please check out our channel. It's called No Bottle Caps. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoy the tier list video. Tier lists, they're popular. Everyone's making them. And I'm going to make my own as well. But this time for RNG manipulation. Which game is the best to RNG manip in? I think we're going to start off with the order that has been given to us by the random gods. I'm not sure why this is the order of the games. But Pokemon Box, Ruby, and Sapphire. Kind of a weird one to start with, because there's like 2 different entire things you can consider. The eggs, which you actually can't even RNG manip, right? They're impossible to do, but then you can make them shiny after you trade them to Ruby and Sapphire while they're still an egg. But then also there's the whole emulator aspect that's in it, right? Where you have Ruby and Sapphire in it, but you could do Method 4 spreads. I don't know if any of them are necessarily worth going for, though. Like, who are you going to go for Method 4 on? It's just like one of the Reggies or the Legendaries. And you're going to have to do regular painting if you want a spread that's good. So target-wise, it's not great. It is consistent. It is actually, it's very inconsistent. Method 4 is like very random. So, and then also painting Ruby and Sapphire is kind of random too, right? You're going to have to deal with all the NPCs and such. I'm going to put this as a D. It's very, is this really that bad? Is it D? We'll go D for now, and then maybe I'll change my mind later. Oh boy. We have Colosseum, folks. So Colosseum has a couple of upsides when you look at what you can RNG manip, right? It's the only place in Gen 3 you can get the beasts. So if you want to use them for like the frontier or like for battles versus your friends, or even just to ribbon master and trade up, you have to use this game to get the beasts because the IVs are bad in Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen. Now, the other targets here, they don't really matter that much because they're not like in Pokemon XD, the Shadow Pokemon have special moves, but in Pokemon Colosseum, they don't have special moves. So you're just kind of going for shiny shadows in potentially Pokeballs they don't have. Like the starters, you can catch the Johto starters in non-Pokeballs. It's the only way until Gen 7. But then they can't get egg moves, so it's like, eh. You get the ribbons on them, that's pretty good. Now, it is very inconsistent. Doing the RNG itself is like really consistent. Like if you could just hit the same seed every time and then go in and do them a nip, there wouldn't be a problem. But the bad news about that is you're going to be clicking the reset button infinitely until you find a spread. And then in general, you're doing a lot of waiting. It takes a long time. Not that many targets. I can't put it higher than C tier, I don't think. I don't think I can put it any higher than C tier. It does have it doesn't even have a variety. You can basically RNG every shadow Pokemon, but there's only 48 of them. It's a low number. And yeah, you can RNG Metagross, or you could RNG Tyranitar, but you can do those in the base game, and there's nothing really special about them. And it does have a lot of different techniques, but all the techniques are basically just variations on Blink. So I don't think it's actually got as much variety as it looks. And it's not even that practical. Scarlet and Violet. There's one RNG Manip in this, and it's the item printer. The item printer, I want to put this in F because it's not even a Pokemon. The item printer is very useful, so that might actually just keep it out of F. Will I put this in F? It's one Manip. It's really reliable. It's easy, and it will save you a bunch of time. I'm going to put it in D. In fact, I would actually put it above Box RS. It's more useful than the Box RS. The Box RS Manips are, like, not useful, you know? This one is actually kind of useful. But it's just, like, there's not too much else going on in it, you know? That's my problem. Okay, Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon are interesting. They are a little inconsistent. Actually, they're a lot inconsistent depending on how many NPCs you got nearby. And the thing about this game is it's sort of just surpassed by its superannuated, some would say, by its sequel, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Because these games, the thing about them is it was cool that you could do them. You can get all 4 Tapus. You can get the legendaries. You can get Lunala and Solgaleo and the little guy, Cosmog or whatever. And you can do wild RNG. So you can RNG any Pokemon in the wild, I would say. But the problem is, A, you're resetting for seeds like it's Calo, which does stink. You can use the Festival Plaza to minimize it, but it still can take a while to find what you're looking for. You have the Ultra Beast too, actually. Actually, I might put this in A. No, B, excuse me. I might put this in B. And then you can do eggs too, and eggs are totally different and 100% consistent. So, alright, I'll put it in B for now, but Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they're going in A. They're the same exact thing, right? You do have to reset for the seed over and over, which it can suck, especially if you're going for a straight up wild. But these games might even be S. Are they S? Oh, they're close. I might revisit. They might be S because there's a million targets. You basically have every single legendary to aim for. It's not that hard. Like, it is pretty consistent. The problem is the consistency isn't the same as, like, you know, Gen 4, Gen 5, or even Gen 3, right? RS paintings will have inconsistencies because of the NPCs, and this is kind of the same thing. You can aim always for a safe frame, which is good. But if you're not going for a safe frame, then what's the variety like? You got eggs, you got static, you got wild. You can RNG every single Pokemon in this game. I'm gonna... And there's so many more targets than Sun and Moon. The problem is the clocks. A lot of people have problems with them. I don't really have problems with the clocks, though. I'm gonna put it in S. I think it's really good. I think you can get every Pokemon that you need in this game. I think it's not that difficult. Yeah, I think it's really great. You can get every Pokemon that you could possibly want. Not that hard to do the Manips. There is some amount of inconsistency in them, but I've found that whenever I needed to actually RNG Pokemon for 5 IVs or 4 IVs or whatever, it really doesn't take that long. So I think I'm going to keep it in S. All right, Red and Blue. So Red and Blue have a big problem in that the only Pokemon that you can RNG are the birds and Mewtwo right now, and a couple of other paths that I've found. So if these had every Pokemon available, which they will one day, these would be S. The RNG is really consistent. It's really fun to learn. And it's totally different than every other RNG. But because the target selection is so minimal. Oh, and the botting has not been done for 3DS. It's only for Game Boy game. So I can't put it above B. I think it is so fun. I think if you have a red or blue, you should try those Zapdos Manips that I farmed out for the 5DV or for the shinies. I think it's really cool. But I can't put it above B, even though it's like actually cool tech. It's almost like, to me, it's almost like learning fighting game tech. Where you're like labbing out different paths and you have to walk a specific way. I think it's really cool. So we'll put it in B just because of how cool it is. And it is very consistent. And the targets are low, so it just can't go any higher, unfortunately. And you can RNG everything. Like, there is some wild pathing done. I think I found an Exeggutor, maybe? So there will be variety. It will be all the... I mean, the Manips are kind of the same, even though the variety, you know, you can catch multiple types. I'm putting in B just because it's fun. Sword and Shield. Oh, man. Okay. Sword and Shield have the problem where they have a bunch of stuff that's crypto-locked. So you can't do the dogs. You can't do Regigigas. You can't do anything in the max layer, which sucks, because that's where most of the past legendaries are. And you can't do the new Regis. So that stinks. It is reasonably consistent. I mean, raids are like one... Oh, the problem with raids is you're controlling the IVs and the ability and stuff and the shininess, but you're not controlling the species, which is a problem. So that drops consistency a little bit. Variety, you can do both wild Pokemon that aren't the static encounters, and you can do raids. Neither of them are particularly fun. They're both very slow and tedious. There are a lot of targets, though. Actually, is that even true? I don't know that there's... Because you can't do any of the post-the-game legends, right? So your only targets are going to be Gen 8 exclusive Pokemon, really. Because you could get the Gen 7... guys in Gen 7, which would probably be easier, and you could get better IVs, right? Same with going for Gen 5 and below and Gen 6 and below. So, I'm not too sure about this. I'm going to put it in C. It is inconsistent because you can't... for the wild encounters, you can choose the symbol spawn, but not the static spawn, and it's very, very slow. Oh, this is the only place you can RNG the legendary birds, though. We're going to go with C. It is very tedious and very slow, and there is some luck involved in every single one of the RNG manips, be it how far away is your target, if your target shows up when you want it to, when you're doing the raid den resetting. There's also a little bit of, like, noise in the overworld you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to, like, get into quiet spots. So, you know, you're not controlling your seed. There's randomness in the overworld. There's randomness when things are going to spawn. So I think C is good here. Okay. BDSP, I've actually never done this RNG. I don't like it because it requires you to use a camera instead of your meat body. So I don't like that. We're going to put it in F because I've never done it. Simple. Okay, Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus is fun, but that's only because Legends Arceus is fun to play. The problem with this game is you can't RNG manip any of the legends at all. So Tornadus, Thundurus, Landorus, Enamorus, non-RNGable, like, at all. Any of the single static encounters that are just one guy always, can't RNG manip those either. And in fact, you're really mostly limited to the double spawners. And there's no skill involved in it, so it is very consistent, but the inconsistent part is you're resetting for a random seed. So something could be millions of advances away that you want. I'm going to put this in D. There's also not a lot of targets. The dex is really small. It's like 240 Pokemon big, I think, or something like that. And you really don't even need to RNG any of them in this game. You just can RNG them in another game and then evolve them in this game. Pretty much your only mandatory targets for Manips, I don't even know if there is any. So I'm putting it in D. Yellow is identical to red and blue. It's just going to go where red and blue is. Gold and silver, they're impossible. They're technically not impossible. There are speedrun manips already done for them. We'll actually put crystal here as well. There's speedrun manips done for them. But they're not going to be shareable between different save files unless you're starting a new game. So the pinnacle of this for like the way that I do manips is maybe going to be TID into starter, maybe really long chain into like a good IV beast or something. But so I'm putting them in impossible for right now because a starter manip hasn't even been done for casuals, you know. Black and White 2. Black and White 2 are interesting because there is a buttload of targets and it is reasonably consistent. And there's a lot of variety, but I'm almost wanting to put it in A tier. And why? Well, because the timer 0, which is the thing that you kind of have to contend with, it sort of randomly determines your seed. It's not the most consistent thing in the world, especially if you're on a 3DS. And so I don't think I can put it in S, even though I kind of want to, because you can RNG every static legend. There's a ton of old gen legends as well. You can RNG breed these days, but RNG breeding is kind of weird and a little bit more annoying than it is in Black and White 1. And then you also have a ton of hidden grotto Pokemon that you could RNG manip. But I think the inconsistency with the timer 0 is going to be very limiting onto this. There's also been recent developments. I know one of my mods has been working a lot on like doing IV RNG in this game and doing advancements in this. And he has gotten the timer 0 more consistent. I'm going to leave it A for now. This could change one day in the future when PokeFinder updates and I finally start experimenting with these games again. I haven't played them since the days of old. Okay, Ruby and Sapphire. Ruby and Sapphire are interesting because I kind of want to put them in A because they're so fun, but I don't think they deserve it. Ruby and Sapphire, you can RNG everything, and it's very consistent. You're always on seed 5A0. And you do have access to the painting manips, where you can go to the painting and then run to a different target and do that. But because that is a plus, I think I have to put this down in B. I'm going to put it below Sun and Moon. I think there's less targets than in Sun and Moon. You can also RNG breed in this game. It's pretty easy. It's my main RNG breed game. I don't actually like doing it in Emerald that much. So I'm going to put Ruby and Sapphire here because of the inconsistencies caused by painting. And then if you're not using painting, you're very, very limited on what you could do. You're only doing 5A0, and there's not very many good spreads on that. And then otherwise, you're going to be doing breeding, which is pretty consistent on these games, but is very tedious. So we'll put it in B. I think that's reasonable for Ruby and Sapphire. Okay. Diamond and Pearl. Interesting. Interesting game, Diamond and Pearl. Where would I want to put it? These are very consistent. I think the Gen 4 games are some of the most consistent games. But I think that Diamond and Pearl are just too limited on your targets. And they use the coin flips to determine their seed instead of using the like phone call that HeartGold and SoulSilver do, which I think makes them a little bit more annoying to do. There is actually a lot of variety. It's every wild Pokemon. It is the trees. You could do Munchlax from the tree. That's pretty cool. That actually, to me, I'm gonna put it above Sun and Moon even because of that. No cool connectivity or anything like that. Like, you could RNG something from the like Pokemon Battle Revolution gifts, like the Electivire or the Pikachu, but those are just Wonder Card RNG, so they're not actually that different. And then eggs in this game are actually kind of a pain in the butt. They, like, because of the way coin flip works, it's actually kind of difficult to get the IVs you want because there's so many NPCs in Solaceon Town. So I'm actually going to put it in B because of that. Okay, X and Y. Now, I'm partial to Gen 6 RNG, but it is very stupid. The problem with this is, yes, there is a ton of variety in this game. Or actually, this game specifically has no variety. You can RNG your main series legend, Mewtwo, and a bird. And then everything else is going to be eggs or wild. So there's like, oh, and Zygarde, excuse me. And all of the legends I listed, they're shiny locked. You can't even get them shiny. So like, well, I'm going to go into this game to RNG a Phantup egg. Yes, I've done that. Or I'm going to do it to RNG a Wild Horde. Also done that. But other than that, like, there's no meaningful targets in this game. And like, you could just regular breed and it's faster than RNG breeding. And it's very inconsistent. You're resetting for your seed over and over again. You are waiting 4 hours to find your seed. You are hoping there's no lag when you run to the new... These are F. This is an F tier game. There's like no purpose to RNG in this game. RNGing in that game is pain. It's pain. Okay, Black and White 1. So Black and White 1 are cool because they are the most consistent game. The timer 0 never frickin' changes. Even if you're on a 3DS, it does not change that much. And egg breeding in this game, you can just get a million eggs so fast. You can breed so easily and so quickly in this game. You could just, this is, if you have a breedable Pokemon that is available in Gen 5, get it in Black and White 1. It is going to be, you're going to get shinies like that, and you're going to get perfect IV Pokemon like that. The downside, not a lot of targets, right? You have Zekrom, Reshiram, Kyurem. Kyurem is not shiny locked, but the other two are. And then there's actually not too much else. You have the Swords of Justice, and then you have the Roamer, who is actually kind of hard to do. So, in fact, if I put this in A, this has to go up to S. Even with the timer 0 problems, I fully forgot about Dream Radar. And Dream Radar is a huge boon to this, where you can, it opens up the targets more. Black and White 2 are S. Even if the timer 0 is kind of annoying, I think these are undeniable S. These are even better than Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Okay. And then Black and White 1 are A, just for their consistency alone. I would put Black and White, if you couldn't RNG any wild Pokemon, but you could RNG eggs, I would put Black and White 1 in consistency alone. I repeatedly go to this game to RNG Ditto in the wild and send it up to the modern game so I can get a 6 IV Ditto. So I think Black and White 1 is good off of Ditto and breeding alone. Even though the target selection is very limited, it's too consistent to put lower. Let's go Pikachu and Eevee. They're impossible. Cannot RNG in them at all, no matter what. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. You might think I'm going to instantly put them in the F tier with X and Y because the way the RNG works is the same, right? Spend 4 hours searching for a seed, reset for a seed until you're close to your target, blah, 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 blah. But there's a big bonus to this, and that's there's a million old gen legendaries. You can basically catch every old gen legend that you could possibly want in this game. And you can catch the Rayquaza and Deoxys and stuff, and, you know, Kyogre and Groudon. They are shiny locked, but you can do them. That being said, they are about as inconsistent as X and Y, even though there are a lot of targets available. So I'm actually going to put them in C tier. They are, to me, they have a very similar experience to Calo, where you do have to spend 4 hours finding your seed one time, but then when you do that, you're kind of just resetting like over and over and over until you're close enough to your target. And then you're hoping that, you know, noise doesn't mess you up or something like that. I actually think I can't justify them being I can't justify them being above Sword and Shield, but I actually do like this RNG for some reason, for whatever it's worth. Okay, up next is the Colosseum bonus disc. Oh, so this is this is funny because you are doing the RNG in this game. This game does generate it. You might think I would put it in the same with Colosseum, but actually no, this is so much more miserable. And I forgot to mention this earlier with Kalo. One of the big boons, no, excuse me. One of the big problems with this game is you have to beat the entire game to trade Pokemon out. And there is not that many Shadow Pokemon that you can skip that are also RNG manipulable. Because if you ever get into a battle with them, their RNG is locked and you can't change their IVs or their shiny or their nature or anything. So you literally have to beat the entire game of Pokemon Colosseum unless you happen to want a skippable Pokemon. And like, that means never battling them. And you might think the bonus disc for the Japanese bonus disc with Celebi would be the same. Wrong. There's 2 targets in this game. And the RNG algorithm is the same, but Celebi and Pikachu are shiny locked. And The only way to do this RNG is to like have multiple completed copies of Ruby and if you're not using glitches, by the way, because if you're using glitches, this is a little bit easier. You can reset the Celebi flag over and over to receive like multiple Celebis. But the way this bonus disc works is that you have 48 Celebis you can send to Ruby and Sapphire games that are Japanese only. You can't send it to other language games. And actually, I think you can send it to like Emerald and FireRed and LeafGreen as well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But you have to send it to a Gen 3 game, and then that's the only Celebi that Gen 3 game can receive. Then you calculate its IVs, and then you calculate the Pikachu's IVs, and you try and find what seed you hit. So you have, if you're not using glitches, you need 2 games minimum to find what your seed was. And then the way you do advances is very limited. You can only do advances by getting more Celebi. So you either need to rebeat Ruby and Sapphire a bunch of times, use a glitch to reset your flag, and all for what? This Celebi? It is really the only Celebi you can RNG. So even though variety is low, it is important, but I can't put this. This is F, right? This is the worst one we've had so far. This is F unless you literally need Celebi in Gen 3, and then it's goated. And then even then, just use my E-card. This is a plug. Use my E-card instead of doing this manip. I've done this manip twice, and the second time I did it was with glitches to reset the flag. If you do that, it's not so bad. If you could reset the flag or receive infinite Celebis, I'd put it at like C or D. But since I shouldn't count glitches like that, no way, Jose. Pokémon Channel. Oh, and if you're not close to your Celebi, you have to reset to find a better seat. Like, this is miserable. And Pokemon Channel, you're going in F tier as well. This is the same exact problem, except you can't even RNG a Pikachu. You could only RNG the Jirachi. And the main benefit this has going is this is the only viable Jirachi you can RNG manip, right? I didn't count the US bonus disc because that's actually part of Ruby and Sapphire. But that bonus disc is for what? 6 shinies, and none of them have good stats, so it doesn't even help this game at all. This one, you sit at the title screen, you reset for a seed over and over again, listening to that music drone on and drone on and drone on, and it's miserable. And then finally, when you get there, you go to the egg channel and you leave it on for 48 hours, and then you hope that you can hit your thing with the menu advances. This sucks. This is not a fun RNG to do. You only do this if you literally need a Jirachi. And again, just use my event these days. Or if you want to do this for clout, go ahead. Not many people in English have done this RNG manip, so you get some clout if you do that. Platinum. You'd think I'd put it right with Diamond and Pearl because they're very similar, but nope, it's going in A tier, baby. In fact, I think it's better than Pokemon Black and White. Technically, this game is a little bit less... it's not less consistent. It is more difficult because the timing window is stricter. But there's a ton of RNGs you can do. It's all the same RNG manips from Diamond and Pearl, but there is slightly more targets. You can do... The events are legal from this game. And there's more wild Pokemon to capture. You can catch certain Pokemon earlier. And then also you can get both game legends in this one. So that's all important stuff. I think it's an S tier, or an A tier, excuse me. It misses out on S because breeding is still a huge pain. The NPCs in Solaceon Town really ruin it for me as well. Oh, and in this one, you can RNG Pokerus. Not a huge deal. I haven't been too considerate of it, but you actually can't RNG Pokerus in this game. It's too hard. It's very, very easy to do in Platinum. I've got a video on it. All right, FireRed and LeafGreen. FireRed and LeafGreen. These games are very near and dear to my heart. I've worked so much with Jeff and Lincoln and various Japanese people like Larvesta on making these really good games to RNG manip it. And for me, they're the most fun. I mean, they are pure skill. They are 100% consistent, right? Anytime you mess up, it's because you are not a capital G gamer, right? But I gotta put them in A. I almost want to put them in B, but I won't. And the reason they're going in A, they're going to go above Black and White. This is because they don't have any targets. You basically get Mewtwo and the 3 birds. That's all that's exclusive to it. You could get Deoxys and Emerald. Technically, you could get it in this game too, but it's literally Mewtwo and the 3 birds. And yes, you can get Kanto Pokemon that aren't in the other games. Like, you're going to go with the starters here. but you're probably going to be breeding the starters. Snorlax, you're probably going to need to breed, right? There's just not enough here that is fully unique to it, that is like a very good Pokemon you're going to want to have. And the birds, really, you want the XD version of the birds. You don't even want the version from this game. You can only get Baton Pass on Zapdos from XD. You can only get Will-O-Wisp on Moltres from XD. Heal Bell Articuno, it's a guy. So if this had more targets, if this had more legendaries available, if it had more methods, right? You have just the normal seed hitting, which is a huge amount of variety, actually. And then you also have TGTV, which does help somewhat. But TGTV, while it is technically 100% consistent, as long as you are a good gamer, triple frame perfect, no human's going to be 100% consistent on that. I can't abide by it. So unfortunately, as much as I love FireRed and LeafGreen, they have to go in A because there's not enough variety and they are just too difficult, even though that's a main appeal that I have from it. Okay, HeartGold and SoulSilver, easy S tier, baby. I'm going to put it above Black and White 2. HeartGold and SoulSilver is the GOAT. Basically, every single past gen legendary available. Oh, Platinum, that's another bonus. It had the legendary birds, actually. Every single past gen legend is basically available here. You can get all the legends from Hoenn. You can get all the legends from Kanto. You can get all the legends from Johto. It's got both Lugia and Ho-Oh in one game. You got the legendary beasts. Every Pokemon that you could want is available to you. Breeding, mega easy. You can just get so many eggs. I mean, infinite amount of eggs. I do most RNG breeding in this game. The IV Judge actually freaking works, unlike the other games. That's not really a thing, but you can do Pokewalker RNG. Lappy, the video is coming one day, I swear to you. I've done Pokewalker RNG before. It's cool. And that lets you access certain unique Pokemon like Self-Destruct Munchlax, or a way to get Spiritomb without owning 2 games. Stuff like that, right? It is awesome. And there's even more. The Safari Zone and the bug catching contest, can't believe I even forgot about these. They have a very unique generation method for how these Pokemon work. So they're actually different than your standard wild RNGs. And then the Safari Zone in and of itself opens up so many different mons to get, right? So I think you can't put this anywhere else other than S tier. And you're controlling your seed, right? You control your seed in all the Gen 4 games. You control your seed in all the Gen 5 games. Very consistent. You don't have to reset for any garbage. So these are great. Emerald is the GOAT. This is the #1 RNG game. This is the best. There are a ton of Pokemon available, right? You get Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza are up in this game. You can get Mew from Faraway Island. You can get Hoenn Lugia from Naval Rock. You can get Deoxys. And it is all significantly more consistent and easy than it is in Fire Red because you have the battle record. You can preserve your RNG state, freeze it in place, and then get whatever you want very, very easily after only hitting it once. This allows you, in tandem with the painting Manips, to fully bypass any seeding problems that the glitch seed would have. And then on top of that, you can RNG a bunch of random stuff in this game. You can RNG Mirage Island to show up. You can RNG the Pokemon in the Battle Frontier for the Battle Factory for the random Pokemon that you could get. You could RNG a wild Pokemon in the Pyramid if you wanted to. This game has limitless potential. It has more targets than Ruby and Sapphire. It has battle records to save your seed, and then it has the painting to bypass the glitch seed problem. You would think all of that would hold it back, glitch seed, etc., but nope. It's the GOAT. Everybody knows it. And then if you add on glitches to it, if you talk about doing PubMed corruption, or if you talk about doing Ace to help enhance the RNG, this goes to S double plus tier. By far the best game for any RNG manipper, I think. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. So this game is interesting because there's actually way more Pokemon in it than Colo. So you'd think, oh, I would put this way above everything else because there's so many more targets. But, you know, a big thing people RNG for is shinies, and it's shiny locked. I don't care about it that much, but it does have the legendary birds in it, and that's important. And every single Pokemon here has a unique move. And you can RNG basically all of them. Some of the Pokemon are not going to be RNGable, and so the target count is still pretty low. And like Colosseum, you have to beat the entire freaking game to trade out the Pokemon that you catch. So you're really going to be doing 1 or 2 playthroughs per whatever target that you want. It's going to suck. But I'll put it in B, and I'll put it below Ruby and Sapphire. There's actually a lot of targets. Follow me, Electabuzz. Follow me, Magmar. This is where Salamence gets Refresh, I believe. The legendary birds I just mentioned in FireRed, how they don't have their signature moves. That comes from here. And so I think that's just a solid placement for XD. You're gonna want to play it. You're gonna need to play it. The targets there are important, even though they are shiny locked. And there's some variety. The Pokespot RNGs are actually totally different than the standard RNG. So I think you're going to be playing this. You're going to be doing it. And it is reasonably consistent. It is about the same consistency as Colosseum. So there is some luck involved in the Manip. I would say everything from here onward has no luck involved in the Manip at all. And then the ones down here are like plagued by different inconsistencies, right? From Ruby Sapphire, yeah, but here, no. And the last game is my Pokemon Ranch. This is an F tier. Okay, for a long time it was thought that it was not possible, that the connection to the DS was not stable enough. But recently a Japanese RNGer has done it and RNG'd the Mew that you can get from Haley. I've never done it. I don't know if there's even public tools available to do it. It's F tier because you're resetting for a seed 1,000,000 times over and over. This stinks. And you can only get 1 Pokemon. So, stinky poo-poo. Don't need it. And that's the tier list. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you agree with. Let me know what you disagree with. I don't usually do unscripted long-form videos like this, so let me know as well down below what you think about this type of video from me. Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!